Are you thinking about getting a pubic piercing? Need to know some information? Well, I'm about to tell you a lot of it. Coming up next on Consultations by a Piercer, episode number 56. For those who are new to the channel, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you're finding it helpful and useful, but you may not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. First off, we need to do a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to be talking about a genitalia piercing. If you are not interested in getting one, not interested in learning anything about it, are easily offended when people talk about said things, or you're not of an appropriate age to learn about said things, or you're in a part of the world where maybe that's not acceptable, please find another video. There are plenty of videos on our YouTube channel that have absolutely nothing to do with genital piercings, that are informative, entertaining, and etc. If you are here looking for something titillating and exciting in a sexual manner, you're going to be disappointed. This is just for educational purposes for those considering getting the piercing done, their partners possibly, or anybody that's just curious. But there's nothing exciting about it beyond that. You know, of course, learning is exciting, but yeah. So let's get into it. What is a pubic piercing? A pubic piercing is named after where it's at. It is located where the shaft of the penis and the pubic area kind of meet. There's usually a loose tissue there. It's pierced through it. It is kind of technically kind of a half and half. It's like a lorem, but it's on the other side. It is somewhat of surface piercing. Does have some high risks, which we'll get into later. But just to give you an idea of where it's located at. Average healing time on this is 6 to 8 weeks, but I generally suggest treating it like a healing piercing for a minimum of 3 months. That's going to involve cleaning twice daily using a sterile saline solution. Personally, I like Neobed's piercing Aftercare. Comes out in a fine mist. However, that may not be available to you, or you might not be able to find it. The main things you want to look for is that it is in a pressurized can, metal one. It should say somewhere on the front, sterile. When you turn it over on the back, the only ingredient should be sodium chloride and purified water. Nothing else. Now, how that is delivered can vary depending on what style nozzle it has. Like I said, the fine mist style, it's really easy to use. You just mist the area, let it stay in contact for 5 minutes. If it comes out in a high pressure like stream, kind of like a squirt gun or a super sucker, that one, you can try spraying it directly on there, but it might be very uncomfortable and messy. Another option would be to do a cold compress. Take a sterile gauze sponge, saturate it, or if that you can't get one of those, then another option would be a clean folded up paper towel. Get it to the point where it's wet, lay it against the area for about 5 minutes, and then pat dry. The other thing I suggest doing is the end of your shower, kind of stick your pelvis out and let the water flow over the area for about 30 seconds. We're accomplishing a couple of things with that. The first one being is in case some soap or something got on there, we're rinsing it away. But the main reason, including why we're doing the saline, is to remove that discharge that hardens and crusts on the jewelry, the crusties. The reason we want it off there is when the jewelry shifts or moves, it will agitate the piercing, which can lead to issues. Also, it's not very comfortable. It can feel like it's like you're pulling off a scab every time it moves. And you do want to make additional room so that if your body produces additional discharge, it can just kind of flow out of there. Now, if you have a situation where it just seems like you have an obsessive amount of discharge or it's just not coming off, don't run to the medicine cabinet and start pulling out everything that's tipped with cotton or with a sharp point or edge or was suggested on the internet and start digging around in there. You're going to cause problems, more than likely. Go see your piercer, have them take a look at it, have them clean it for you, and make sure there's not some other issue going on. Usually, the saline and the rinsing in the shower is enough to remove it. Now on to cross-contamination prevention. The things you do to make sure you don't get an infection. Wash your hands before you handle it. No oral contact or exchanging of bodily fluids on, near, around the piercing for a minimum of 6 months. That doesn't mean you can't have sex for 6 months. That just means you need to use some type of latex barrier. I'll get a little bit more detailed on that when we get down to that part of the video. Keep your environment clean. Clothing, bedding, towels, anything that may come in contact with the piercing needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. Do not submerge piercing in bodies of water you cannot control the quality of, which is everything but your own clean and well-maintained bathtub with fresh water. Anytime you can put your whole body in a body of water and move around, that body is going to be filled with microorganisms. Your piercing is an open wound until it heals, which means that one of those pathogens, microorganisms, and etc., could work their way into that piercing and cause an infection. So it's best to stay out of the water until the piercing is healed. Keep pets away from it. Everybody looks at me kind of weird when I bring this one up, when I'm doing this in person. Like, I'm not that familiar with my pet and would never do that. Gross. What I'm talking about is mainly don't let them have access to your bedding and clothing and etc. In fact, completely ban them from the bed until the piercing is healed. Now let's talk about trauma and abuse. Avoid constrictive, abrasive clothing. If it hurts to wear something, you shouldn't be wearing it. This loose-fitting clothing or clothing that's snug but not super tight is your best option. Avoid sleeping directly on the piercing. Make sure you're sleeping on your side or your back. Do not spin, rotate, move the piercing during the healing process. There's absolutely no benefit to that and no reason to do that. It's just going to lead to issues. Don't play with the piercing. We tend as humans like to play with anything that's new, especially when it's attached to us. Do not play with it. Obsessively playing with piercings will lead to problems, including those lovely agitation bumps, migration, and rejection. Oh, and of course, infection. Generally avoid contact with the piercing. If it hurts to have contact in whatever way, avoid that. It's kind of a weird location that doesn't really come in contact with things a lot, but do take that into consideration. If you're wearing something or you're doing something and you notice pain, it's your body telling you not to do that or wear that. This piercing has been known to bleed anywhere from 1 to 5 days. Usually with most people, it's the first night, and that's about it. A couple things I would suggest doing. You can wear a pad to kind of isolate it and keep from staining clothing or some type of bandage. Another thing is the first couple of nights you sleep, get some puppy pads and put them underneath where you sleep. That way you don't have to worry about staining the sheet and the bedding and the mattress. Risks. This piercing is a kind of high-risk piercing. It's kind of a surface-to-surface piercing. It can be a lot like a frenum, but because of where it's located at, especially if you're sexually active, tends to get a lot of contact in some cases. So it's a little bit more prone to rejection than other piercings. Do understand that going in. It is kind of a surface-to-surface piercing. Not entirely, because genitals, a lot of them are surface-to-surface piercings, like all the frenums, all the scrotums, gishes, etc. And these do heal for most people, but you do have that higher risk than you would say with another piercing in the area. STIs and STDs. Anytime you have a piercing in that part of your body, you are more acceptable to those things. So practice safe sex the way you're supposed to when you switch partners. And just be careful out there. The last risk is closure. These piercings heal fairly quickly if the jewelry is removed. It's a good idea, if you like this piercing, to always leave something in it, only taking out to replace. Now let's move on to sexual activities. Gentle at first. If it hurts to do something or hurts to do a certain thing or that, move, change, take a rest, try something else. Your body is trying to tell you that that's not a good thing to do. Latex barrier for the first 6 months. Even if you've been with a partner for 20 years, we're not worried about STIs and STDs. What we're worried about is an exchange of bacteria in an open wound. So just to be on the safe side, just wear some type or use some type of latex barrier until the piercing has gotten to that mature point of about 6 months. Water-based lubricants only. Avoid anything that has numbing gels in it or any type of additive, lasts longer, numbing stuff, flavored stuff, spermicide, etc. with condoms, it can be kind of uncomfortable basically because of where that piercing is located at. Try to find some way to have it a little bit looser and not tight fitting. Experiment with different types and see which brand works best for you. If you're encountering pain while you have it on there, probably need to just maybe try some other things. Now let's talk about anatomy, placement, angle, etc. This is usually done through the loose tissue at the base of the shaft on the top of the penis, right where it meets the pubic area. Generally, most people have a little bit of loose tissue there that when you pinch it, it's free, and it's pierced through that. Usually horizontal. I wouldn't suggest doing this vertically because it's going to probably not keep. It's probably going to reject pretty rapidly. It really needs to be done horizontally. Jewelry. With this one, rings are probably the most common or most traditional. You could use a curved barbell. You want something that kind of ducks a little bit into that tissue, opposed to like on a frenum where you just want that flat. You don't have the flip-flop as much with this one, and even the flip-flop is something you kind of want at advantage. It's going to be pierced with jewelry that's a little bit oversized, or usually is oversized, just to allow for growth and etc. Just experiment, see what works best for you. I've done it with both. I've had success with both. Now let's talk about pain in the piercing experience. Most people on a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is the most painful thing they've ever experienced, will say this one is between a 2 and a 6. It can vary from person to person. The clamps can be kind of pinchy, and the piercing itself can be kind of intense. However, unlike other piercings where it's like, ow, that hurts, and then throb, throb, ache, ache, throb, throb, with genital piercings, it's kind of an, oh, God, that hurts, and then it's over. A breathing exercise is always helpful with this piercing. Generally, what I will have the client do is breathe in through their nose, hold it, and then exhale. We don't do any of this 1, 2, 3, here we go stuff. It's best to just kind of have somebody in kind of an exhaling during that process, kind of a more relaxed position and kind of in a better state of mind. Over and done with very quickly. I use forceps. I think it's the best way to do it to make sure that you have only the tissue you need. Inject the needle in and through, take the forceps off, insert the jewelry, either using a guide pin or pressing that jewelry behind the back and applying that tension and pushing it through. Close up the jewelry, stop any bleeding that occurs. Usually there'll be maybe a little bit of slight bleeding at first. Not tremendously a lot. I've never seen a ton with this one. Then we'll bandage it in some way. Usually with a glove, depending on how far it's down and what fits comfortably, and then give you a big long list of things that you need to do and send you on your way. What to consider with didoids. The first thing I would suggest considering is this piercing may bleed off and on for a few hours after getting it done. It may be one of those piercings that bleeds off and on for a few days. Dress accordingly. Wear something that you're not really concerned if it gets stained or what have you. Also, prepare. If you're going to use pads, buy them beforehand. Have loose-fitting clothing and shoes that are easy to take off in case you do have to take them off to get the piercing done. Just plan ahead. You can't sleep on this piercing. So if you normally sleep on your stomach and that seems to have contact with the bed, plan ahead. Kind of train yourself not to do that. Try sleeping with a body pillow or kind of to train yourself more to sleep on your side with less contact with the piercing area in advance. Talk to your partner. If you're in a committed relationship and you're considering getting this piercing done or any genital piercing, it's a good idea to discuss that if you're in a committed relationship with your partner. Ultimately, what it comes down to is it's your decision whether or not you want to get this done. It's your body. You have complete control over it. But if you have made a commitment to someone else, it is a good idea to get their input of whether or not this is something they're okay with or they maybe have issues with or questions about beforehand. Also, do not do this as some kind of big surprise for a romantic weekend. You're not going to be in a full working order, so to speak, right after this piercing is done. It might interrupt fun time, and it's best to do it either afterwards or far in advance. Don't do it day of or night before or any of that other stuff. If you have an anniversary coming up, don't surprise them by getting a piercing there because it's going to kind of cut down on some of what we generally try to do on anniversaries. Get intimate and be with our partner in an intimate way. Now, the other thing is that piercings, especially with genital piercings, they draw attention to the area, and it can have the effect of increasing your libido. So get a little bit of that out of your system beforehand. Have a nice, fun weekend with your partner, and get that that whole libido a little bit lower, just to get through that first week or so and not be frustrated, I guess, would be the best way of putting it. It's always a good idea if you have a few days off and could take some vacation, do it right at the beginning of that time off. If you have a 3-day weekend coming up, do it at the beginning of the 3-day weekend so that you're kind of just able to just sit around the house, relax in some comfy pants, and not have to deal with anything. You're not going to be able to swim. So if you're a swimmer and you do that a lot, you might want to pick a time of the year when you're not going to be in the water as much. If you're planning, you compete or what have you, you might want to wait until you're done competing. And the last one, which is usually the last one, are you going on vacation or a road trip or something? It's usually best to wait until afterwards or do it far in advance of going on this vacation. There's a couple different reasons for this. First off, often when we go on vacation, we're going to new places we've never been before, which means you're going to be exposed to possibly pathogens and microorganisms and fungi and et cetera that you've never been exposed to before and you may have not built up an immunity for. So it increases that likelihood of infection. The other thing is you can't usually control how clean the environment is that you're going to be in. It's basically someone else's job. The other thing comes back to the swimming. You can't swim. Most people want to swim when they're on vacation. All right, well, that pretty much covers everything I can think of at this point in time about pubic piercings. Do you have one? Are you thinking about getting one? Do you have questions I didn't answer? Or you just want to share your experience? Feel free to do so in the comments. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I would love to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and check out this other video.